Sam, is Kelshire a chance of playing this weekend, or how close is he to AFL action?
Yeah, I mean, getting closer. We'll have final match committee after this. Don't want to give away too much, but certainly last week we didn't consider him available, and now it's whether or not we think it's best for him to play. Certainly we'd like to get him back in, but we want to do it at the time that's going to be best for him. So that may be this week, or it may be a little bit further down the road.
Sure, if up to him, he's going down your door to play this week?
I haven't. I sort of avoided him for most of the week. So I haven't run into him too much just yet. We had the big Mother's Day thing, so I was sort of protected by the all the mums being around on Tuesday. So we'll get to that later on.
How much did you gain out of last week? Now that the dust has settled, what did your group gain on being so involved with all your legends?
I think the club did a fantastic job of putting it all together, and I think there was 165 past players there, and a lot of them brought families, and the functions were pretty good from what I've heard. There was a bit of recovery and some sore heads in the days following, and I think the fact that everyone was able to come back, you commit for however long you play, you commit an enormous amount to your work, and you pour a lot into it, and for those guys to all have a chance to come back and spend some time with each other, and I think it's fantastic for the past players, and I know John Kennedy has done a fantastic job with really growing the impact of that group over the last few years, and for our current playing group to knock shoulders with so many club greats who have made the club what it is, and I think they're all proud to wear the colours, and they're proud because of the people that came before, and we've talked a lot about the history, but when history is right on your doorstep like it was last week, I think it made it all a little bit more real for them.
Luke Hodge was talking last night about being disappointed Cyril wasn't there. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple, so I know Bud wasn't there, Cyril wasn't there, I think Grant Birchall. There's people with other commitments, other things in their lives, and you can't get everyone always. I think Don Scott missed it as well. So I think if you grab the vast majority of Hawthorn people over the journey, about as many as you would expect, or much more really, were there. So obviously you would love every single person, but the realities is that's quite logistically difficult.
Josh Ward played game 50 this weekend. Since he came back in at the start of the season, he's really started to make that midfield spot his own. How impressed have you been in terms of what Josh done?
Yeah, I mean, Wardy's he's shown great resilience. I think he got drafted early, and got a lot of games, and we've had a really good conversation with him early in the year where he played a lot of footy in his first year, and how much better he is now, but he didn't start the season in the side, and so he's had to build a bit of resilience, and we knew that would be part of his journey at some stage, and certainly now it doesn't look like he's going anywhere, does it? So I'm really pleased with players get some knocks around. It's very rare that you get in and you stay in forever. Like I said, Josh Weddle's done that. He played his 50th last week without missing. But for most players, whether it's an injury or form, or playing some Box Hill games, and Wardy's been in that boat, and so him to get to 50 reasonably quickly still and be able to go from strength to strength in his game. I think we've seen growth in his football, and he's been able to put together a pretty good season so far.
Then what have you made of Melbourne's last couple of weeks? You've both played Richmond and West Coast, so from a scouting point of view, I guess probably got a good read on them. Yeah, I mean, we've played them. We haven't played them for quite a while, since very early in last season, and they've certainly changed a few things, but they've won their last three now, and I think I said a month ago I went and watched them live, and I thought, you can see what they're trying to do, and the best of Melbourne is certainly in front of them, and it feels like that. I feel like they're improving their game, and they've really starting to master the sort of couple of tweaks that they've made to their game style this year, and certainly watching the way they go about it, their ladder position is probably a bit misleading. I think they're playing some pretty good footy, and it's going to be a really good game. Lloyd Meek's got a big challenge up against him. Max Gawn's in red hot form at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably universally loved, Max Gawn, except for all the opposition coaches who just wish his age would catch up with him and he could go off into the sunset as maybe the greatest ruckman ever and just retire and give us all a few less headaches. But unfortunately, he's in great form, and Meekie has been in really good form for us too, so that's going to be a great contest, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they go about it, and I just wish you would have a week off maybe or something like that, but you've got to back Meekie in and get that job done.
Sam, load management's really topical this week, given what Collingwood's doing tonight. night. How will you navigate the next few weeks? Because you've got Darwin next Thursday night. I know the age profile is not the same as Collingwood, but you've got a player like Jack Dunstan who's informed at 33. What will you do with some of your older players or players in their spell?
Yeah, I mean, we look at load management and how we want to manage the list throughout the whole season and be quite well prepared. I mean, Collingwood have been very transparent with it and have brought that out right at the front. But so Tom Barras he won't play in this game. So he's, when we recruited him, we didn't think he would play every game for the season, and he's had a really good block, played every game, been in good form for us, and we thought that, the chance of him playing every minute of every game consistently was going to be difficult. So, he could play, but we're gonna manage his training loads to make sure we get the best out of him for the whole season for this week. And wouldn't surprise me if we do that from this point on, a couple of other times through the year. So it's going to be a bit of a challenging period for us with load management and list management. We've also got some players playing really well that we'd like to give exposure to, and obviously winning is first and foremost, and you want to make sure you don't sacrifice that. But being able to win as many games as you can to qualify is the thing on our mind at the moment.
There's been an attitudinal shift with load management. I mean, every other sport does it, but it feels like we're a bit behind the beat. Even Collingwood will be criticised tonight if they lose or perform poorly, but it makes sense with a 23-game season.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't spoken to Fly or anyone at Collingwood about it, but I don't imagine they're too concerned about the external narrative. I think you have to get the best out of your squad. And when they went into this season with a list that they knew was going to be older, they knew that it was unlikely that someone like Scott Pendlebury plays every game. I know he was the sub earlier in the year, but he gets best on ground last week. So, you got to manage your expectations of the players, and if you want them to play older and older and older, then you know that sometimes you're going to have to compromise the minutes of them or others, and we're going to have to do the same thing at different stages. And it seems quite a mature way to go about your list management and your season to me.
Have you had a thought about State of Origin? It seems to be back on the agenda a bit. Would you like to see it? Thinking about that load management stuff, I guess, would it be another game for some players?
Yeah, I think the way that the AFL handled the All-Stars this year was potentially a blueprint where it didn't add, we had a couple of guys who played in that game, but they just missed a Hawthorn practice game. So they still got the same amount of load management. Did they get the same continuity with their teammates? No, but they got the same game minutes and all those sorts of things. And I think both Carl and Jarman have had really good starts to the year, so it hasn't hurt either of those guys. So, I think it's something that the fans would love to see, the players would love to be a part of, and how the AFL make it fit is the challenge as always.
What about for coaches though? Would you?
No, I think I'm still a fan of the game. I still love the spectacle and the entertainment of the sport, and if it's something that you got to sit back and watch or be a part of, I think that's something you'd be pretty happy to see. And obviously someone probably gets injured in one of those games, and that coach is going to be enormously disappointed, but they would have played in a practice game for your own club at the same time. So as long as it doesn't add a game, I think there would be some pushback if that was the case. But for me, I'd be happy for our guys to go and represent their state.
Have you got a view on fines for players for getting hurt? It's been happening quite a bit this year. It happened this week with one of your players. Have you got an issue with fines being dished out?
No issue.
Did you have a chat with Nick about that?
I'm not going to tell you exactly who I talked to what about, but I mean the AFL has a incentive to not do it, and I think that's probably where it could stop. No, cheers.